All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the show. Today is Tuesday, August 17th, 2021, and you are watching a Deeper PTE. I'm your host, PTE, also known as Permission to Exist. And I am so excited to bring y'all the show tonight. I was actually ready last night, but I got ready around 11 p.m. Eastern, which I know is okay with some of y'all, but I didn't want to rush it. I wanted it to be right. So, welcome everybody. I'm so excited. Welcome to those of you who got your email from the mailing list. If you're interested in joining the mailing list for this channel, the link is in the description box, but there is a second step. You have to email me and just put a deeper PTE in the subject line, and I will add you to this channel group. Okay. So I hope you all got your email. I hope you like them. I'm so in love with them, y'all. My heart can't handle it. It's that kind of stuff. My heart can't take. Like, I love it so much. So welcome everyone. Welcome to the show. We have a lot to cover tonight. We will probably be here a good solid 2 hours, probably. But maybe a little less than, but it'll be a long show. Hopefully. Watch it go by in 15 minutes. No. Do I ever do anything in 15 minutes other than test streams? So, welcome, you guys. So, tonight's topic is wheat and tares, part two, harvest time. Okay. So, actually, I think I want to show that one. There we go. It's harvest time, you guys. So, this is a topic that we have actually talked about before already. It was one of my first videos on this channel, and that video is titled Angels and Demons, Wheat and Tares. And it's linked in the description box for you if you've never seen it before. And for one of my first videos on this channel, it's actually not too bad. The size of the picture is all wrong, but other than that, the content quality is pretty good. So I have linked that in the description box for you. Some of you have already seen it. We are going to watch a little clip from that video, and that's kind of how we're going to start the stream off. So to kind of bring us to present day, previously in that video and kind of here and there on this channel and on my other channel, we talked about this issue or this reality of there being two different types of people on planet Earth. Some would refer to those as real people and fake people. Some of those would refer to those as like beings that have a consciousness, and then other people have no consciousness, or we might refer to them as empty seeders. Okay. I've done a video on empty seeders on this channel before. But then biblically and spiritually, we refer to them as wheat and tares, basically meaning children of the kingdom versus children of the devil, right? And so we talked about that already. And in that first video I basically just presented the possibility of it being true. And I presented a clip of T.D. Jakes alongside an old book that I had found on the internet. And hopefully that book is still out there. But it's in the public domain, so it should be. And it was pretty good. You know, it really presented the case for there being two different types of people. Well, after everything we've been through these past couple of years, I think it's safe to say that there definitely are. I think it's safe to say that we're currently in a time frame of these two different groups of people being divided out and separated. And that brings us to our live stream this evening, which is basically that process. We're going to talk about that process of determining who is wheat and who is tare. And hopefully you guys really, really enjoy my interpretation of this and my analysis of this. So without further ado, why don't we go ahead and get started? Let me share my screen with you. Welcome to everybody in the chat. It's so good to have you. So we're going to start the show off by watching just the clip of this video from my channel of the T.D. Jakes live stream. Now, it's my understanding that this sermon is no longer available on the internet. It's linked in this video that I'm showing you guys, but it's my understanding the sermon itself is no longer available. So I'm actually really happy that I have it. But what I'm getting ready to show you is a clipped version. So the actual version of that sermon, I think, was like either like an hour or 2 hours. and I clipped it down to like 20 minutes. We're not watching the 20-minute clip. We're watching like 6 minutes of it. Okay. But yeah, apparently it's no longer available. So if you go looking for it, you probably won't find it. And I'm sorry about that, but at least we have it here, right? This is important. This is one of the reasons I feel like YouTube is important. Documentation. Like if this all survives into the future, like we have like totally documented this time frame. Wouldn't that be amazing? Like if all of our YouTube channels end up like in some library somewhere, I think that would be cool. But anyway, let's watch this clip and we will continue the show. Welcome, everybody. And we'll just dive really, really deep. So sit tight, buckle up, and here comes the video clip.
Then Jesus sent the multitude away and went into the house, and his disciples came unto him, saying, Declare unto us the parables of the tares of the field. He answered and said unto him, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. Now the field is the world, the good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is in the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of the world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who have ears to hear, let him hear. I want to talk briefly about a war between two worlds. A certain man went forth and sowed good seed into his field, and sent those that were up under him to tend to the field after he sowed it. While men slept, the enemy came and planted tare amongst the wheat. The man knows the integrity of the seed that he planted. He sowed good seed into his field. There is no question about the integrity of the seed. The seed is absolutely good. The seed is so good that the jealous enemy looked over there and said, if I don't do something to head it off, he is going to increase the value in the kingdom. So while men slept, the enemy came to plant tare amongst the wheat. Now, the tare planted amongst the wheat tells you the limitation of the enemy. He couldn't destroy the integrity of the wheat. All he could do was plant tare around the wheat, but he couldn't stop the wheat from being wheat. The coming of the enemy, which Jesus says is the devil, the coming of the wicked one into the story is not to fight the wheat, because he is powerless to fight the wheat. He wants to plant tare amongst the wheat, but he cannot fight the wheat, because no matter what he does to the wheat will always be wheat. The only thing the enemy could do was plant imposters amidst the wheat, because he could not destroy the integrity of the wheat. If he can never destroy my wheatness, why does he come? He comes to devalue the harvest, because the tare he comes and plants the tare amidst the wheat to devalue the harvest. What the tare will do is rob the soil of the nutrients that could have fueled the wheat to be wheatier. He is not attacking the wheat, he's attacking the owner. So the wheat is caught up in a war between the enemy and the owner. Now this is where the text shifts. When the enemy came in and planted tare amongst the wheat, the text says that when the men arose and saw the wheat and the tare growing up together, by the time the wheat comes up, the tare comes up with it. So when the men woke up, they said, we got to do something. We got to do something. And some of you right now are thinking, I got to do something. And he said, let's go out here and attack the tare. Now, in an age that had no repellents, no weed killers, no way to destroy one without the other, the only way to get the tare out was to pull it up. The problem with pulling the tare is that you also pull up the wheat. If you disrupt the tare, you will destroy the wheat. So God said to the men, leave it alone. He said, you will know you have come into the harvest season when you see the angels gathering the tare in bundles. When you see the angels gathering them into bundles, you have come into the last days. The bundling of the tare is a sign of the harvest of the wheat.
Okay. So, and this is the book that I mentioned. This book is in the public domain. That's where I found it. I think I found it on something called like Google Books or something like that. We're not watching this part, but this is the book that I mentioned. Okay. So let's chat a little bit more before we move on. I know that went by a little fast. So do know that that whole entire clip is available for you on my channel. And again, you can go searching for that sermon, but I doubt you'll find it because I've been told that it's not there anymore. Unfortunately, so sad. It's one of the best ones he ever did. But anyway, um, sorry, you might hear something that sounds like a little baby elephant in the background. Just ignore it. It's my cat. She needs her face cleaned. Anyway, what T.D. Jakes was basically saying, he was discussing the parable of the wheat and the tares. And he was saying that essentially what had happened was a farmer planted some wheat. An enemy got jealous and came along and decided he wanted to destroy the crop. So he planted tare in the field. So when the farmers workers woke up and saw this, they went to the farmer who kind of represents God in the parable and said, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to destroy the tare? And God said, no, because if you do, you destroy the wheat also. Essentially because they're so intermingled. And here's the part that always gets left out. Wheat and tare look so much alike, you guys. So let me show you really quick. Let me pull up a couple pictures here. Let's make you big. So here's one picture of them. Let me take this off. So here's one picture of wheat and tares, okay? Wheat is on the left, tares are on the right. You see how similar they are? Now, I assume that the tares don't stay green because then it would be kind of obvious. But, even still, it looks like wheat, doesn't it? They look very much alike, right? So then let me show you a different picture. So let me put this one down and then let me open up this one. Here's another one. Okay. Bounce back over here. All right. So you have wheat on the left and you have a tare on the right, or tares or whatever. So imagine a field full of this, okay? Imagine a field full of a whole bunch of plants that look just like this. And your job is to to get the wheat, which is this. Well, really, this is the wheat. This is wheat. This is what ultimately becomes bread. This is what ultimately turns into the food that we eat. Everything that wheat goes into. This is wheat. Okay? These are like the stalks that they grow in. So there's one thing that T.D. Jakes got wrong about his analogy. And I'm going to explain to you what that is in a moment, okay? But he was still correct. His analogy was still 100% correct, still 100% makes the point that it was supposed to make. But there is one small thing that he got wrong about his analogy, and I'm going to show you what that is, okay? So again, in the parable, God said, leave them alone, because if you try to destroy one, you're going to destroy the other. Okay. So there is one small nuance he got wrong. And I'm going to show you what that is right now, okay? And this is kind of leading into the point of this whole entire live stream. All right, I'm so excited, y'all. I can't even handle it. You ready? Okay. All right, I'm going to go on mute. And what I'm getting ready to show you is how wheat was harvested back in the day. Now, this matters because if you think about how wheat is harvested now, it won't make sense because we use a lot of machines, okay? But this is how wheat was harvested back in the day, and the Bible was written back in the day. So they weren't referring to machines when they were talking about wheat and tares and harvesting and all that. So let me show you something, and then we'll get back to the conversation. Okay, now let's recap. Again, two types of seed were sown. Well, really, one type of seed was sown in the field, the farmer's seed, which was wheat, which is good seed. In the parable, the enemy comes along and sows the tare, which looks very similar. They look alike. So if you go to try to pluck up the tares from the wheat, you stand a really good chance of destroying them both because they look alike. So you have to let them grow together until harvest time. All right. That's when you separate them. This is kind of what TD Jakes got wrong in his analogy. So when we look at this again, I'm going to mute. All right. What has happened and what has taken place in this analogy is they've been harvested and bundled together. You see that? Now, to get the wheat out, they get the ever loving shit beat out of them. Do you see that? So everybody's getting beat. The wheat is getting beat. The tare is getting beat. Come over here. I love this part. This part is so funny too. Because it's like, come over here. All of y'all, come here. Come here, come here, come here, come here. All of you, every single one of you. Yep. Just like that. Okay. And what is happening here is as they beat, and what they're doing here is tossing everything in the air, the chaff or the tare blows away in the wind, and all that's left behind are the seeds, okay? The wheat, the good stuff, the thing that you want, the seeds. So literally, they can do this and then just remove everything excess, and the good part is left behind. Do you understand? Everything else that's worthwhile and of quality is left, and all the trash, well, it's not really trash, not all of it, blows away in the wind, essentially. Now, here's what's important about this part right here. Even after all that beating, he still has to sift this product because there are still remnants of the tare in the mixture of all the wheat. Still, even after everything, you see, they just beat it. They just beat this wheat and beat it and beat it and beat it and thrashed it and beat it and thrashed it and beat it. And they got the wheat out, or so they thought. But watch what happens when he picks it up. Look how much is still in there. You see what looks like dust? That's not dust. That's tare. That's chaff. That's hull. That's everything you don't want in the wheat. So it's like, even after all that, but even after all that, you guys, look. So what's happening here is he's pouring the wheat kernels into this bucket and letting the wind from this fan blow the chaff or the tares away from the wheat. So do you understand that even after all of that, even after the beating, even after the sifting, even after all of that, there's still a couple more steps to make sure there's no evil left amongst you. Do you understand? Is it starting to become clear? Is it starting to make a little bit more sense? So it's like, that's how interwoven evil can be. That's how intertwined it can be. It can be so deeply intertwined in our lives that it has to literally be snuffed out. Okay, so let's watch that again, and I'm going to let you watch it with the sound again. Okay, so as you can see, because wheat and tare are so very, very intertwined with each other, because they are so similar and grow right next to each other, and makes it so hard to tell them apart. The part that TD Jakes got wrong is that, well, he didn't really get it wrong. It's kind of what the Bible says, but he said, when you see them gathering the tare together in bundles to be burned in the furnace, then you know harvest time is upon us, or something like that. I'm sorry for getting that incorrect. But truly what it is you can't tell them apart until you harvest them, dry them, and beat them. That's when you get the wheat. That's the only way to tell them apart. Otherwise, you won't know. You can't do all that by hand. That would take forever to do it by hand. So what you do is you just wait for it to all dry out, and then bundle it together, and then beat it within inches of its life to see who is wheat and who is tare. Tare will blow away in the wind, and the wheat will remain intact. Okay. So this is very, very important. All right. So now this leads us to some other points and some other thoughts. Okay. So let me switch up my screens just a little bit. Welcome everybody to the chat. This is deep, isn't it? Man, and also I want to definitely make sure I say this. So the way I discovered this whole wheat beating, the way I discovered the whole wheat beating thing was on someone else's YouTube channel. It was one of the religious channels, and I don't remember who it was, but I want to make sure I give credit because that's very important. I want to make sure I give credit. And I could not find the video they used, which was, they found a video of someone who had like a metal bucket, and they just had a handful of it, and they were just beating this wheat on the side of this metal bucket. And that imagery is really what woke me up. I was like, "Oh my God, that's how you harvest wheat? That's how you harvest wheat?" And so I went in search of that video, couldn't find it, but I want to make sure that I didn't think this, make it sound like I thought this up on my own. I saw that video and just didn't take note of where I'd seen it. But he showed one where the person was beating a metal bucket with the wheat, and all you could hear the seeds of wheat or the kernels falling out. And I was like, oh my God, like my eyes just went wide open. It was such a revelation, right? So I want to read you something really quick from an actual farming type article, because when you look up this kind of stuff, it's so funny. You find so many biblical and scriptural references, and it's like, I want to know for real. Like, I want to know, like, from the Farmer's Almanac, how you do this, how you separate wheat from chaff. Because really, it's two things, guys. Tare, well, here's one thing: tare is a weed. So, a tare is not supposed to be there anyway. So dang, I wish I had the other picture pulled up. A tare is not actually supposed to be there. It's a weed. That's why in the parable, it's such a bad thing, because it's a weed, and it was really petty too, because you planted a weed that looks just like my crop, man. So now when I go to harvest, it's going to be incredibly difficult for me to tell what is my good crop and what's the bad crop. There's only one way to tell, and that's to beat it within inches. But here's the other thing: assuming there's no tare, you still have to do this. So let's take the tare out of the picture. You still have to do this to get the wheat, because the hull is useless. The hull is what they call inedible. So you can't eat it. You can't eat the thing that it grows in. So that's why they get rid of it. And it's so light and fluffy, it just blows away in the wind. So you have to beat wheat one way or the other. You have to beat it to get it out of its shell, and you also have to beat it in the event that there's tares in the field. So you know who's who and what's what, right? So now that you know that, I'm not going to read, maybe I should. Yeah, I'll just read really fast, okay? It says, last week, Jacqueline from North Dakota wrote the WGC asking if hulled millet is whole grain or not. She'd read that hulling removes the bran, so she figured the answer would be no. Whole grains are no longer whole. Happily, we were able to assure her that hulled grains can still be whole grains, and we thought you all might like to understand why. Says your whole life you may have heard the expression separating the wheat from the chaff, without any real understanding of its meaning unless you grew up on a grain farm. In cereal crops like wheat, rice, barley, oats, and others, the seed or the grain kernel we eat grows on the plant with an inedible hull, also sometimes called a husk, surrounding it. Before we can eat the grain kernel, we need to remove that inedible hull. This can require two processes: threshing to loosen the hull and winnowing to get rid of it. Okay. In some harvest ready grains, the hull is thin and papery and easy to remove. Little or no threshing is required as the hull is already loose. Traditionally, farmers would toss this kind of grain into the air from big flat baskets, letting the thin hulls, called chaff in Middle English, blow away in the wind or fall through the chinks in the basket. This wind assisted process for separating the wheat from the chaff is called winnowing, and the grains with almost no hull are called naked grains. You can winnow other grains too. The photo here shows rice being winnowed in Indonesia. Okay, so that's rice. Okay. Now, here's the part that I was going to jump straight to, but then I figured, why not give you some context? It says other grains, other grains, even when they're ripe, have a thick hull that adheres tightly to the grain kernel. These are called covered grains, and threshing them is a real challenge. In the old days, covered grains were often pounded to loosen the hull or soaked in water. Sometimes they even needed to be lightly milled to remove the hull. It's no coincidence that thrash, meaning to whip or flog, originated as a variant of the word thresh. Alas, with such primitive means, some or all of the bran was often lost too, since the healthy bran layer was stuck to the inedible hull. Today, fortunately, technology has given us much more exacting ways to peel the hull off of covered grains without disturbing the bran layer. Okay, so we're not going to go through the rest of that. The part that could preach and the part that I wanted y'all to see was this part right here. Okay. It says, in some harvest ready grains, the hull is thin and papery and easy to remove. Okay. In other grains, even when they're ripe, they have a thick hull that adheres tightly to the grain kernel. So when I was telling you, it doesn't matter if there are tare in the field or not, it doesn't, because to get to the wheat, that outside has to be removed. And if we were on my other channel, we would be talking about the pretense has to be broken, basically. So, what is the point of all this? It seems to me that this parable, this theme that keeps coming up in the Bible, is also letting us know that everything that we go through is a process to basically break this hull off of us. Now, that presents a variety of different questions for me, because when I read, in some harvest ready grains, the hull is thin and papery and easy to remove, would this represent people who don't really go through much in life? Maybe they didn't need that much chastising to get it, so they only went through one or two lessons and that was it, and their hull was gone. But then when you come down here, would this be your hard-headed people? Other grains, even when they're ripe, have a thick hull that adheres tightly to the grain kernel, meaning these are the people who have to literally be thrashed in life to remove. What would the hull represent? So to me, the hull could represent all kinds of things. The hull could represent the different sins, or another way to think of hull is shell. So that shell could represent different sins. That shell could represent different bad habits, addictions, personality disorders, anything that would keep us out of heaven could be what that shell is. You understand? So, with this in mind, all right, it made me think, well, is this the meaning of life then? Is it possible then that this is the meaning of life? So that took me down a rabbit hole a little bit. And I found this video on the threshing floor. Okay. So this is how they used to thresh wheat back in the day. I'm not going to play the audio. I'm just going to let you see what's happening here. What you have is a donkey being led by a farmer pulling this board that drags across the wheat. And as that happens, the wheat is separating from its hull and from the chaff and falling to the floor to be harvested later, right? So then there was that. And then I noted the circular nature of this threshing floor going around and around in circles like an orbit, almost kind of like how the sun goes around the earth. Wait, no, sorry. How the earth goes around the sun, right? Allegedly. So with that in mind, is that what life is? Is life the threshing floor? We are born and we are threshed to some degree, either a high degree or a low degree, but we are threshed in order to determine what we are, because we look so much like the enemy. The enemy and God's people apparently look so much alike that there is no way to tell them apart without doing this process, without threshing them, without thrashing them, basically. So then it makes you go, well, when people ask questions like, why is life so hard? Or, why do good things happen to bad people? The answer to that question could possibly be because we are on the threshing floor. So at some point in time, no one wants bad things to happen to them. But if we are on a threshing floor, that board is going to drag across us at some point in time. So do you see what I'm saying? So is it possible that life itself is the threshing floor? That is why we are here. That's why we were born in the first place. What do you guys think so far? All right. So, as a quick recap for everybody, anyone who may have just joined late, we're talking about the biblical concept of wheat and tares, the reality that there are some people here who are actually imposters, fakes, artificial. They're not real. They aren't. Like we've speculated about it on the other channel, but according to the Bible and biblically, yes, that is correct. It's not sci-fi, it's not far out. That is the truth. There are two types of people here, basically real people and not real people. Real people and imitation people, real people and artificial people, reals and fakes. The problem though is they look so much like each other and they are so similar. Like sometimes people will ask the question, why doesn't the Lord just wipe out the whole planet and start over? Well, would you burn down your house with your kids in it? Just because there were bad people in the house with them? Like, well, there's a whole lot of bad people in the house with them, so I'll just burn down the whole house and start over. Yeah, the threshing floor does suck. Yes, it does. Um, no, you probably wouldn't. I hope you wouldn't burn down the house with your kids in it just because there's bad people in it. So, and then on top of that, the bad people look just like your kids. It's almost like picture your child having an identical twin, basically, that's not your child. The identical twin belongs to the enemy, but if they were both standing in front of you, you would not be able to tell them apart. That's the issue at hand. That's the problem. This actually kind of piggybacks off of a theory I did in another video called The Divine Custody Battle, where I basically proposed that God, who I believe personally is female, but that's a different show, different topic. We'll stick with male. We'll stick with male for this one. God was betrayed in heaven. So in that betrayal, God doesn't know quite who is who. And the only way to tell who is wheat or who are the true children of God is to thresh them all. Thresh them, thrash them, like put them through the threshing floor, basically. All of them. Bad things are going to happen to good people, and bad things are going to happen to bad people. Thresh them all, you see? And in the end, it will be determined who is wheat, right? So I wanted to pull a couple of scriptures and talk about those. Then I wanted to talk through a couple of questions that still remain for me, okay? Like that still remain after this. So let me pull these up. Welcome to everybody in the chat. The questions are very deep for me too. So I feel like the questions are one of the deeper parts of the show, but we're going to go through these first. So welcome. So let's look at a couple places in the Bible where it actually talks about this. I'm using the King James version of the Bible. And the first place, well, we'll look at the actual parable of the wheat and the tares. So Matthew 13, verses 24 through 30. So it starts here. And it says, another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then hath it tares? In other words, where do these tares come from? He said unto them, an enemy hath done this. The servants said unto him, wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, nay, lest while you gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of the harvest I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. And then let's see here. And then it goes on to the mustard seed parable, right? So Jakes didn't exactly get it wrong. He really was going off what the Bible actually says. What the Bible didn't expound on is how all of this is actually gathered. Because, like, for example, let me see if I can just pull the video back up real quick. For example, mute, and where's Buddy recording? So, in just a few seconds here. So this guy, so he could have in his hands a bundle of wheat and tares. So it could be either, but after he gets through beating it, the wheat will be on the ground, and all that's left will be the tare that you can, yes, now burn. Do you see what I mean? So there's a lot left out of that parable that I think if people understood this, that parable would make so much more sense. I mean, it makes sense anyway, but when you understand that wheat is a kernel that drops from this bundle, from this mass, after it's been beat and shaken and rattled, and everything that's left is no good and you can burn it, then it makes sense. You see, it makes so much more sense. Same here. You can just toss it up. The wheat will fall down to the ground, and most of the stuff will actually blow away in the wind. Okay. So who knew, right? I'm sure some of you knew that. I didn't know that. This was news to me. All right. So now that we know that, it makes this parable make a little bit more sense, but there's more. This theme comes up a lot in the Bible. So the next one is going to be Matthew chapter 3. And this one starts, actually, it's only just this one quote, but let me start back a few verses. It says, "But when he saw many of the Pharisees and Sadducees come to his baptism, he said unto them, O generation of vipers, who hath warned you to flee from the wrath to come?" Or, sorry, I read that wrong. "Who hath warned you to flee from the wrath to come? Bring forth therefore fruits meet for repentance, and think not to say within yourselves, We have Abraham to our father. For I say unto you, that God is able of these stones to raise up children unto Abraham. And now also the axe is laid unto the root of the trees. Therefore every tree which bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Indeed, baptize you with water unto repentance. But he that cometh after me is mightier than I, whose shoes I am not worthy to bear. He shall baptize you with the Holy Ghost and with fire, whose fan is in his hand, and he will thoroughly purge his floor and gather his wheat into the garner, but he will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire." Okay? So the Bible even makes reference to a fan. It says, "Whose fan is in his hand, and he will thoroughly purge his floor and gather his wheat into the garner, but he will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire." So, really, right there in the Bible, it kind of refers to planet Earth being the threshing floor. And God has a fan because this stuff is so lightweight that the fan will blow it away, but it'll leave the wheat on the ground. And there's not a lot of things that a fan won't at least move, you know? Like, I was amazed when we were looking at that video when he was dumping it from the bucket into the other bucket in front of the fan, winnowing it, how the wheat didn't blow away with it. The wheat just fell right into the bucket, but everything that wasn't supposed to be there blew away in the wind. So it's pretty incredible. Let's look at another verse in the Bible here. So this is Hosea 13 and 3. Very interesting. A lot of 13s and 3s came up around this. Could be coincidence, but I just thought this was interesting. So this is Hosea chapter 13, verse 3. Well, actually, let's just start since it's not that far. It says, "When Ephraim spake trembling, he exalted himself in Israel. But when he offended in Baal, he died. And now they sin more and more, and have made them molten images of their silver, and idols according to their own understanding. All of it the work of the craftsmen, they say of them. Let the men that sacrifice kiss the calves. Therefore they shall be as the morning cloud, as the early dew that passeth away, as the chaff that is driven with the whirlwind out of the floor, and as the smoke out of the chimney. So, in other words, this is speaking on how God is going to destroy evil from the earth. So, yeah, they are very empty and shallow, and it kind of makes sense as to why, right? No substance, very hollow, hollow people, hollow men, hollow women. Okay. So, and when you look at these Bible verses, it makes it make a lot more sense. Okay. Then, why did I pull Exodus? Oh, you know what? I know why. Okay. Let me see where I can start this one. I'm going to start this one at 27. So this is Exodus chapter 9, verse 27, or it starts at 27, and it says, "And Pharaoh sent and called for Moses and Aaron and said unto them, I have sinned this time, the Lord is righteous, and I and my people are wicked. Entreat the Lord, for it is enough that there be no more mighty thunderings and hail, and I will let you go, and ye shall stay no longer. And Moses said unto him, As soon as I am gone out of the city, I will spread abroad my hands unto the Lord, and the thunder shall cease, neither shall there be any more hail, that thou mayest know that the earth is the Lord's. But, and this is what I wanted to start at, or this is what I wanted you to see. 30, verse 30. But as for thee and thy servants, I know that ye will not yet fear the Lord God. And the flax and the barley was smitten, for the barley was in the ear, and the flax was bold. But the wheat and the rye were not smitten, for they were not grown up. And Moses went out of the city from Pharaoh and spread abroad his hands unto the Lord, and the thunders and hail ceased, and the rain was not poured upon the earth. So I didn't know if this was related or not, but I thought this was significant. But the wheat and the rye were not smitten, for they were not grown up. So, in other words, it's almost like the Lord was waiting for them to grow up in order for them to be smitten. You understand? So, but I could be completely wrong about that, but I did see that and I wanted to show that to you guys. Okay. So, with all of this in mind, it leaves for me lots of different questions. So, I'm going to run through some of those questions with you guys, and then we'll do a quick after show and then we'll get out of here, okay? Well, first, let me tell you one of my main points. One of my main points of the show is that if you individually as a person feel like you have just gone through it in this life, or you have just gone through thing after thing after thing after thing, it's a good sign that it's possible you've been identified as a possible child of God and you are just getting threshed. Although, from what I'm gathering from everything I've read, everyone's going to get threshed and thrashed, even if it doesn't appear like it. Like, even people who you might look at and go, wow, they have a great life, easy life, they have no problems. You don't know what those people are going through. You really don't. So, but you in particular might feel like you're going through an unusual fight. You might be getting threshed and thrashed to make sure that you're wheat. It's possible. Okay. So, so there's that. So I almost kind of want to make it kind of encouraging a little bit for you. Just know that, hey, at least you've been identified as a possibility, right? At least you've been identified as a candidate at minimum, which I consider positive, right? But then it really does beg the question about people who haven't, or who, I have to say it like this, who don't appear to have gone through much. It appears like their life has been easy. It appears like they've had a cakewalk compared to your life. It appears that way. Just from whatever you know, you believe their life has been easier than yours, right? I was thinking about this right before I came on air. I think these people are one of several options, okay? One, either they just haven't gone through their thrashing yet. Remember, that board takes time to work its way around that circle. Okay. So perhaps they just haven't had their thrashing yet. That's always a possibility. You won't know until the day that they die whether or not they had their thrashing. Okay. So it's possible they just haven't gone through it yet. That's one. It's possible that they already went through it. So perhaps they've already gone through their thrashing and passed the test, you see? So now they're on the easy part of their life or the easy side of their life because they went through their thrashing and were determined to be wheat. So far we have two options. One, their thrashing hasn't come yet, or two, they've already gone through their thrashing and passed the test. Okay. Now, there's a third option that makes me laugh a little bit. And that third option is it is just so abundantly clear that you are not wheat, that it's not even worth beating you. Like if you're a dandelion in a wheat field, I know you're not wheat. Like I know for a fact that you're not wheat. I can just look at you and tell. I know what you aren't for sure. So there's no need for me to beat you. Which is not good because that means in the end you're not coming. You understand? That's not good. You might go, oh, great. Whew, I get to avoid my thrashing and everything. I don't get to have a thrashing or anything. Um, nah, that just means you're not coming. That's not good. Because it doesn't sound like you're going to hell either. It just sounds like you're not going anywhere. Like you don't even get to go with Satan in them. So, oh, the chat says YouTube refuses to alert me when you go live. Yes, I know. I'm aware that that happens. Join the mailing list, and that is the easiest way I can let you know because I'm very aware that YouTube does not put out the notifications. And if I set this video up, like say around 12 noon, it's almost like the algorithm goes, "Mwahahahaha, I have 8 hours to suppress the video. Perfect. I have 8 hours to hide it from all of her subscribers." So I try not to set it up too early or too far in advance because I swear that's what it does. It goes, 8 hours to suppress the video. Yes. So I have to try to like spring it on them. But anyway, join the mailing list and then you have to email me and put a deeper PTE in the subject line in order for me to add you to this channel's mailing list. But yes, darling. So again, the people who've had easy lives are in my, and actually there's a fourth option but I'm saving it because I need to bring up another question. But the people who have easy lives have either not gone through their thrashing yet, gone through their thrashing and passed. Oh, I forgot this part, gone through their thrashing and failed. So think about it like this. If you've been thrashed and you failed, well, there's no need to like, okay, have an easy life. Who cares? Ultimately, you're going to get tossed into the pit. You understand? So who cares? Yeah, have an easy life. Who cares? You see? Or, dang, what was the last one? Oh, you're like a dandelion in a field of wheat. You're so clearly neither one that you're not even worth beating. You're not even worth bundling. It says, sounds like you'll be reincarnated then if you don't go to heaven or hell. Yeah, what a nightmare, right? It's like, hey guys, well, can I at least come with you, Satan? They're like, no. It's like, what? It's like, well, where do I go? That's messed up. I think that's kind of messed up to be so clearly identified as not either, that you're not even worth beating. You're not even worth bundling. So it's one of those options. Okay. So it's like they're not even eligible for consideration. Okay. So why would you process them? You see what I'm saying? So awesome, awesome. Make sure you email me and just put a deeper PTE in the mailing list or in the subject line. Okay. So there's that. We and then okay, and there's another nuance to that one too. That I forgot this part. So either you're clearly determined to be a dandelion, or it's possible that they just look at you and go, "Oh, you're a demon," or "Oh yeah, you're an angel." But I don't think it works like that. I think that's the whole point. I think the issue at hand is it's hard to tell. It's impossible to tell without basically stress testing it, basically. And what better stress test than to just beat you up against the wall until either wheat falls out or you blow away in the wind? One or the other. Okay. So there's that. We talked about the possibility of Earth being the actual threshing floor. So this kind of made me worried. It amused me, but it also worried me at the same time. Because it's kind of like people will often ask, well, what's the meaning of life? Why am I here? I didn't ask to be born, blah, 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 so forth and so on, right? Well, perhaps on the other side, before you got here, someone was examining you and said, I don't know. I can't tell. Can you? No, I can't tell. Well, send her down there and let's see. Put her on the threshing floor. Let's see. So it's possible that we're all born because God, the spirits, the angels, whoever oversees this whole process couldn't tell what you were. Couldn't tell. So, you know how they claim and they say that everybody has good and bad in them, and everyone has evil in them, but everyone also has righteousness in them, and all people are both, right? Well, what if there's some truth to that? What if there's some truth to it in the sense that you were so much of both, or at least appeared to be so much of both, there was no way to tell what you were without putting you on the threshing floor? So there's that. Okay. So, what is life? What's the meaning of life? To get threshed, to see what you are, to see where you need to be sorted to, basically, right? So, it's worrisome then also because here's another way to look at it, you guys. So, remember, part of the reason the farmer said don't pluck them both or don't harvest them yet until they're done growing is because you'll destroy them both. So remember, even after all that beating and sifting and beating and sifting, he still had to pour the wheat in front of the fan to get the rest of the chaff to blow off. Maybe the issue is not so much you as the people you are around and the people that are part of your life. So your family, your friends, maybe even your workplace, depending on how entrenched you are. Like some people are deeply entrenched in their workplace, like deeply, right? Whatever it is, you know, perhaps it's not necessarily you. And this is not to give you an ego boost and say, oh, you're perfect. You're a perfect little grain of wheat. You're just surrounded by all these evil people. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just throwing out all the possibilities. It's possible that you are so intertwined with evil people that you have to be beat and then sifted, beat and sifted, beat and then sifted, beat, then sifted, and then finally poured and blown in the wind to get them off of you, to get them detached from you, to get them off of you. You understand? Because just like the picture you're looking at, all that wheat came out of a staff or a stalk that looks just like the one on your screen. And just like the article we were reading, some of it is on there so thick that they have to be submerged in water and soaked to get it off. Shake the devil off. Baptized. Baptized in the holy water or something just to get them off of you. Do you understand? And what if it's possible that those spirits ride with you and have been with you before you even got here? You see what I'm saying? It's something else, right? So again, I'm not trying to give you guys an ego boost and say, "Oh, you're so perfect. You have no flaws. You don't need to be beat." You don't need to be beat. You're perfect. You're flawless. It's everyone around you. That is not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is, what if it's possible that some of you are going through so much or have been through so much because God is trying to get these people, these spirits, this devil off of you? Yes, soul ties, karmic ties. Chat says, whew, soul ties, karmic ties. Exactly, exactly. So again, you might be feeling like, God, why am I being punished so much? What did I do? Like, I'm more than happy to apologize for it. I'm more than happy to atone for it. You just got to tell me what I did. Some of you might spend time combing through your memory, the library of your memory, trying to figure out what you did. Like, is it that one time that I cut that car off? Is it that? Is it because I cut that car off that one time? I didn't see them. God, I'm so sorry. Is it that? No. Let's see. What did I do? Like, you might just rack your brain trying to figure out, what is this karmic retribution? And it may not necessarily be anything you did. It could be. I'm not absolving you, but I'm saying, just like that farmer had to sit there and, after beating and sifting and beating and sifting and beating and sifting, still had to blow it in the wind to get the rest of it to come off. So it could just be what's attached to you that's causing all these problems. Okay. So there's that. So that's one of my questions. So far, my questions have been for the people who go through very little. The whole point of this stream is about people who go through a lot. You're on the threshing floor, obviously. So, but my first question was people who go through very little in life. What's their story? What's the reason behind that? My second question was, oh God, what was my second question? What did I just ask? Oh, mercy. Wow, I forgot just like that. Oh, well, it's whatever I just got through talking about a second ago. So now my third question is, what are the bundles? What are the bundles? Now, this is getting interesting to me. This is something I've never been able to figure out ever since I first heard this parable years ago, really. I'm like, well, what are the bundles? What does that mean? Obviously, it means a group or groupings of something. But it very clearly says when the angels start gathering them together in bundles. So the first question is, what are the bundles or the bundling? What is that? And then it naturally leads to the next question which is, who are the angels? Who are they? Who are the people doing? Let me see if I can get this off here. Who are these people? Who are the people that are administering the beatings? Are they people that are here on earth already? Are these spiritual beings that we can't see, never will see? Are they circumstances? Who are the angels? Who are the sifters? Who's doing this? You see what I'm saying? This is a question I've never been able to figure out. These are questions I've never been able to figure out. What are the bundles or the bundling process? What is that? Like, does that represent who we identify with, like political parties? Like, okay, I've bundled myself as a Democrat. You've bundled yourself as a Republican. Is it our racial ethnicities? Like, who or what represents this grouping process? Is it the country that we live in? And then who are the angels, right? Who exactly are these angels that are going to be doing all this thrashing? Can we even see them? Are they here? Okay. But then here's another question that really I think about a lot when I think about this particular topic. And it's what is the expected end result of the thrashing? So I know, based on everything we've seen so far, what the spirit wants is the wheat. The spirit wants the wheat that fell from all of this stuff, right? That's what spirit wants. But the question that I'm asking is, like, after a thrashing, how is it then determined that I'm wheat or chaff? So in other words, what does blowing away in the wind look like? And what does falling to the ground look like? That's my question. What does that look like? So is falling to the ground, like when you fall to the ground on your knees in prayer, like weeping and broken, like, is that falling to the ground? Does that represent something different though? What does blowing away in the wind look like? Does that look like a flaky person? Is that someone who's real flaky, who flaps in the wind, who at the first sign of stress, they run? Is that what blowing in the way looks like? Do you see? Does my question make sense? So I guess what I'm asking is like, how do you pass the test? How is it determined that the test has been passed? Do you see what I mean? Or is this just something that we don't know until the end? Right. Or even that. I looked at the chat. It says, chromosomal bundles. I'm overthinking it. You may not be overthinking it. We could take it even further, but I'm not going to. Not on this stream. I was going to take it even further, but I'm not going to. What is this bundling process? I have to know that. That's the thing that plagues me. But at the end result, the end of this thrashing, is it who we become as people? Is it who our character becomes under stress? So you go through a good thrashing. Is it determined that you're wheat once you come out of that thrashing, who you are as a result? Did you become a good person or did you become a bad person? Do you see what I mean? Like, did it make you worse or did it make you better? Type situation. And then I guess my other question that would relate to that would be, so let's say you get a good thrashing early on in life. Like, is it assessed that you're wheat forever, or does the question remain? Because a lot of people get thrashed more than once. But then again, that could just have to do with that hard hole. Maybe hard-headed people have to be thrashed multiple times. There's so many questions. Like, it creates a lot of different questions for me. Oh, one that I forgot to list when we were talking about the shell or the hull that has to be thrashed and broken and cracked, basically. I said, what are they? Do they represent bad habits, sins, personality disorders? One that I forgot to mention are curses. What if it represents generational curses? And that's part of what has to be thrashed off. I don't know. I really don't know. And then it also begs this question. Think about it like this, you guys, because the Bible does say somewhere that the Lord creates all things, even evil for the day of evil, or something like that. So in other words, that particular passage is basically saying even evil was created for my purpose. And if what I'm saying tonight is true, then that would make perfect sense. Because I remember when I've heard that before, I'm like, why would God create evil? That makes no sense. It literally makes no sense at all. It doesn't. Like, why create something perfect, then throw something bad in the mix? Well, what if the something bad is the thrashing? Like, if everyone's nice to each other, how will you ever get thrashed other than natural disasters? So what if the narcissists in our life, God forbid, have been placed here to thrash us, to make sure that we're wheat, and then ultimately they're just going to blow away in the wind? When harvest time comes, they're just going to blow away or get burned up in the fire, one or the other. But they were really here to determine whether or not we're wheat. I don't know, y'all. I really don't know. But I want to watch this video again because I love it. We're going to watch this one more time. Then we're going to do a quick after show and then we'll get out of here, okay? But I hope you all have enjoyed this topic. Okay. So there you have it. So that's pretty much all of my thoughts, you guys. I am going to do a quick after show and then we'll get out of here. I hope you all enjoyed this take on it. Kind of a nice follow up to that first video I did years ago. I think I published that in 2017. Mercy. Whew, we've come a long way production wise and everything since then. But there is a purity about those. There really is. Because it's actually pretty decent content. It was just bootleg presentation, but that's neither here nor there. Let's go through some of your comments. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate you being here and thinking through these complicated things with me. So let's see here. So, let me change this banner to one that I like. I like them to be kind of bubbly. There we go. So this says the rapture question mark. So here's what's interesting about that. So I've heard two theories about the rapture. I've heard, obviously, that the rapture is when all the Christians or children of God get swept up and taken home, basically, to be with the Lord in a good way. But I've also heard that the rapture is actually the exact opposite. Because think about it, wheat falls to the floor. So if wheat falls to the floor, it almost seems, and chaff blows away in the wind, it almost seems that like if someone were evil, they might be the ones that actually leave. They might actually be the ones who depart. And that's kind of a scary thought, right? Because then it's like, if you wake up one day and everybody's gone, or a lot of people are gone and there's only a few people left, you're like, oh no, I got left behind. But what if you didn't? What if you're the wheat that fell to the floor? It's a very interesting question. Yep, it says tare equals the body snatchers that look like us but are soulless. Exactly. So the tare humans or makeshift humans must have the ability to reproduce just like they either have the ability to reproduce like humans or just enter into a human body and just remove the soul, just like you said. So basically they come in, they body snatch, and they imitate and mimic, but it almost seems like they just have their own imitation system that's independent of us. They look like us, they can do a lot of things, pretty much. They can do everything but be human. That's the one thing that they can't do. Just the one thing. That's the one thing they can't do is be human. Oh, interesting. It says B positive blood types are advised to stay away from wheat. I don't know why that feels relevant to this conversation. It does feel relevant. Shout out to the B positives. That does feel relevant. That's interesting. Interesting. I'll have to think on that. Meditate on that some. It says I should read Second Esdras. I will. Let me see. Is that in the Apocrypha or is that in the Bible? Let's see. I think it's in the Apocrypha, isn't it? Whoa. Okay. Yeah, I think that might be in the Apocrypha. I need to get an Apocrypha. I need to get an Apocrypha, darling, from my biblical library. I need to get an Apocrypha. I can't believe I don't have one. Let's see. Hey, Limes. It says, this is deep. It is, isn't it? By the way, Limes, to answer your question, I cannot enable super chat on this channel until I hit 1,000 subs. And I know you had asked, so I just wanted to let you know. But YouTube doesn't let us make money until we hit 1,000 subs. Isn't that fun? Just so fun. So equal opportunity. Let's see here. Yeah, it says when you reflect on this and meditate, it is very deep. It really, really is, y'all. Like until you understand how wheat is harvested, it almost doesn't make complete sense, but it makes complete sense now. And of course, they harvest wheat quite differently. Now they just put them in machines. I don't know what they do, but it doesn't involve beating it. It really doesn't. Let's see. Says, but I don't want to wait longer for the tares to get destroyed. I'm tired of them. I want them to go now. I think everybody's tired of them. We all want them to go now. I think we're all sick of them. Everybody's sick of them. The earth is sick of them. The planet is sick of them. The plants, the animals, everybody, the universe. Because we've got to be giving off quite toxic energy waves. Like those of us who are not tare, you know, we've got to be in distress all the time cannot feel good for them. But I guess that's what a good beating will do. Let's see here. And maybe, oh no, I'll save that for the endlessness of endlessness show that we're still going to do. Okay. I'll just have to remember. Let me actually write it down. Oh, I'm sorry, puppy. Okay. It says, I'm not following what harvest time means exactly. So, what I believe it means is basically, it appears that harvest time is basically times of extreme trouble, because harvest time is when everything that's growing has been now cut and basically it's starting to dry up. Like they have to let these bundles dry first before they can start beating them. So they've been cut. Essentially, it seems almost probably like cut off in a way. They've been cut off. They're starting to dry out. They're losing nutrients. They're losing, well, not losing nutrients. The wheat isn't losing nutrients. Everything surrounding the wheat is starting to lose nutrients because it's drying out. And then after all that, now we're all getting beat together. Like, didn't it just feel like we all got beat up the last year or two? even if you didn't lose your job, you had health insurance the whole time, and the pandemic has not touched you or your family at all, like surely your life has been impacted in some way by this thing. Either you couldn't go somewhere, something you needed wasn't there because the supply chain broke. You know what I mean? Like we're all being touched, hammered, beat upside the side of a bucket, right? So essentially, it appears that it's harvest time now because it seems like everybody is going through something at the same time. Like I can't even keep up, y'all. I was watching the old news break the other day. I didn't even remember it. I was like, wow, that did happen. Wow, that did happen. Oh man, like things that have happened that literally have totally left my memory. And I say all that to say that it's coming so quick and back to back. It feels like a rhythmic beating. It feels like we're getting beat together. So that's kind of what I interpret harvest time to mean. The time for proving, or basically time for collecting the good food and separating the good usable food and fruit and wheat from all the bad, basically. And this is the only way to do it, to put it through extreme stress. That's how I interpret it. How do you guys interpret it? Let's see. It says PTE, there's a gathering in Revelation 7 and another at the sixth trumpet before the vials are poured out. The thin hulled wheat will not go through. The heavy threshing, the hard hull will go through. Right. Right. Yep. Because the thin hull, they don't take very much. It doesn't take much to determine that they're wheat. The other ones, oof. I think I heard someone say once that people are going to be surprised who they see like in heaven and surprised who they see in hell. Like very surprised. Because you might see somebody in heaven and you're like, wow, that person really? I imagine we shouldn't be judging. This is all hypothetical. You might just be a little surprised, like, oh, wow, I didn't expect to see them here. And it might be because that particular person was put through so much that on earth they might have looked like a disaster, but maybe in the spirit was pleased with them because the spirit just put them through one banging after another, and in the end they actually turned out to be weak. So that's why they're there, versus somebody who you might have actually thought was weak got hit one time with the hammer and blew away in the wind. And that's why they might be in hell ultimately. Let's see. It says, I wonder who created the tares. Well, it could be theorized. Let me see if I can actually find the Bible verse. I create good and evil. Right, let's try Google. Okay. So, oh yeah. Okay. So, I mean, based on what I'm looking at, it's possible that God created the tares for this very reason. So, this is Isaiah 45:7. It says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. So, I mean, it's such a weird thing to think about because it's like, well, if you created evil, then why so much beef? Why do you have so much beef with evil if you created it? This is one of the more confusing things in the Bible to me. And this is something I actually don't have an answer to. Wouldn't even be able to do a show on because I don't know. Because like on the one hand, God has a very clear beef with evil, very clear from the beginning. Like in Genesis, the beef starts with evil, right? But then you get verses like these: I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. So if that's the case, then why the beef? It's very confusing to me. I don't know. So I wish I had a better answer for you, but that's my best honest guess. It says I must have been hard-headed or hard-hulled headed. I certainly went through a threshing. Some of us are hard-headed, you know? And then I even wonder if some of it is like preventative. Like if they can see that if you don't go through this threshing, what you might become accidentally, I don't know. It's like we're just going to thresh you just to discipline you because if we don't, but then the issue there is you either are or you aren't. You either are wheat or you're not. You can't become a tare and you also can't become wheat. You either are or you aren't. So it almost seems like the beating is simply to separate the you and the whole, which could be your sins, curses, generational curses, personality disorders, bad habits, whatever, is to separate that from you, but also to separate you from everything that looks identical to you so they can tell you apart. That's the only thing that I can think of. Otherwise it makes no sense. So I don't know. Oh, interesting. It says the tares were created by the fallen watchers. Interesting. Oh yeah, when they bred with human women, right? And created the giants. Would they be the tares? Are the tares the giants or like the remnants of the giants? Something like that. Basically, it says threshing seems like a hazing process to get into heaven. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because consider this, if heaven really is perfect, like think about, I'm not saying your version of perfect is what heaven would be, but just think about whatever perfect would be to you. And let's say that that's what heaven is, right? Heaven is ultimately what your version of perfect, right? Well, in order for you to appreciate it, don't you basically have to go through its polar opposite? Like, how could you ever appreciate truly just waking up in the morning, walking out in a home that was either built by God or a home that's like so naturally designed that it didn't have to be built, like the perfect cave or something. Listen, I don't know, roll with me. But just imagine waking up in total safety. You could sleep outside if you want to, walking to any body of water and it's completely pure and clean and perfect, and you can drink from it, or you can take a little bath. It doesn't matter because the water is self-cleaning. So it cleans itself. Then when you're done having a sip and taking a little dip, you walk up to a tree where there's apples, or you walk over to the banana tree. It's all free. You don't have to pay somebody. Like, basically being provided for in the same way the animals are provided for. The animals don't have to work. They're given everything they need, but they're also very obedient and they follow the instructions that they were given to the letter for the most part, which we would call instinct, but they're obedient nonetheless. We're disobedient. So, in order for us to earn all those good things, it's like we have to be hazed to appreciate it. Otherwise, we will become spoiled, rotten brats. And I have a feeling that it's the spoiled, rotten brattiness that got us kicked out of heaven in the first place. Well, got Lucifer and all his angels kicked out of heaven in the first place. That spoiled, rotten, entitled brattiness. Didn't appreciate it. Didn't appreciate anything. So, okay, well, now you have to go work for everything. And let's see how you like it. Fear the one who can subject you to a lifetime of work. Fear the one who can kick you out of heaven and sentence you to life, basically. Literally. You are hereby kicked out of heaven and sentenced to life. Let's see. Or even like being able to fly. You know what I mean? They can probably fly. They probably don't even fly. They probably more so like teleport in heaven. Like, I need to go visit my mom real quick. And you just kind of sit and like meditate on mom's house and you're there. They're probably able to do that. But you'll never appreciate that. So you get to use this smartphone, this quote unquote smartphone that's quite limited compared to what you can actually do in heaven. But you wouldn't appreciate it. You got to be limited. Man. Let's see here. Oh, creepy. It says, I have seen my tare clone. It's on Facebook, even spelled her name exactly like mine. She looks like maybe 20 years younger. It's even wearing devil horns in the pic. How creepy. That's creepy. They say everybody has a doppelganger. That's creepy. So weird. And it also means to me then that if you're wheat, chances are you are surrounded by either a bunch of tares or a bunch of chaff, one or the other. So it appears that in this life, you're either one or the other. You are either wheat or you're chaff or you're tare, right? So if you're wheat, sure, there's other wheat around you, but it's surrounded by layers of chaff. You see what I mean? So it's no wonder there's all these wicked, evil people in your life. If you're wheat, that makes perfect sense. You should be completely surrounded by them, as wheat is. And it's not until those things get beat off that they disappear finally. Don't beat people. No violence. Metaphorically and hypothetically beat is what I'm saying. Let's see here. Oof. Says, I literally have never had an easy season. Oof. Hashtag wheat life. Mercy. Says those with easy lives are blowing in the wind. Yeah. Exactly. So people who are carefree, casual, nothing but, and then, oh man, you just gave me a major revelation. Think about it like this. Chances are, well, not chances. Narcissists are definitely tare, but here's why. Their lives are super easy. And why are their lives super easy? Because they're not really being beat. They're probably dandelions. But more than that, though, because their lives are so easy, they have no empathy for other people. So they could never understand what it's like to be wheat. and get hit over and over and over and have to come back, over and have to come back, over and have to come back again, get hit again, have to bounce back again, hit again, have to bounce back again. They can't relate because when something starts swinging at them, they fly away in the wind. They float off. You see what I mean? So they cannot relate to your heart. Part of the reason narcissists are narcissists is because they cannot relate to your hardships. And they can't relate to your pain. They can't relate to the hammer because, again, as soon as they get hit, they float off into the wind, basically. So, wow, that's deep. Yeah, those with easy lives are blowing in the wind. Exactly. Carefree, not a care in the world, and can't relate to your struggles because they blow in the wind. They're not getting hammered. It says it's a lot of dandelions out here. Yeah, there are. God, that's so funny to me. It's like, hey, what about me? It's like, oh, you're a dandelion, honey. It's like, so I don't get beat? Nah. Okay. So am I going with you guys? Nah. We're only collecting wheat over here. Okay, cool. I'll just go with the tares. I don't think they want you either. And maybe this is what that Bible verse about being lukewarm means. You have to be hot or cold. You can't be lukewarm or God will spit you out. Mm-hmm. Millennial, you're on a roll tonight. This is dang, we were born sus. All of us were born suspect. All of us were born sus. Like, I don't know about this one, send them down. I don't know about this one, send them down. That one's a dandelion. I don't know about this one, send them down. Let's see. It says, then how does one that has endured so much heartache and pain? I wish I knew what part I was talking about at that point, so I could better answer your question. But that could be part of the reason, though. You might just be wheat. Unfortunately, just getting battered just to be sure, or just to remove things from you. I don't know. It kind of sucks. But the Bible says this, though. The Bible somewhere says that the children of God go through the most trouble, basically. They go through the most. And this is probably why, because again, I don't think there's going to be any do-overs, you guys. This is it. So I think everyone who's on earth is already here. So what I mean by that is there's not new people getting sent down all the time. So when people say, oh, thank you, Lord, so much for my baby from heaven, yeah, God is probably like, well, yeah, it's from heaven technically, but all those babies are already there. So like if I have kids, they're already here on earth. The seed is already here. It's just waiting to be, fertilized and hatched, basically. Does that make sense? So anyway, so basically what I'm saying is every human that's ever going to be born was suspect, basically. If you weren't suspect, I imagine you got to stay behind and you're just watching and waiting for the day. Let's see. But if you're here, man, that means we're suspect, man. We sus. That's so messed up. So, if nothing else, that's a great public service announcement to try to get your life together to prove what you are. Because they've been watching. They want to see. Let's see. Says, if I had not been bullied and discovered narcissism for 2 years, I would not have discovered the close friend of 25 years with narcissistic tendencies. Exactly. It's so hard to see. And I think that's another thing that tare does. Tare makes it very hard to see, It makes it hard to see your wheat field. It makes it hard to see how much wheat you have versus how much tare. Because keep in mind, tare is a weed. It's not supposed to be there. It's a weed. So tare kind of blinds you a little bit also. So yeah, as soon as you start to discover the traits of tare, it makes it a little easier to see them all. It says, I was just talking to my sister about this. We both we've both had relatively struggle-free lives, and I attributed it to generosity. Well, it could be that, you know, perhaps, maybe one of the early struggles you went through was all it took to show that you were weak. You know what I mean? So, but keep up the generosity though. I think that's good. Keep being generous though. But, it could have just been that one thing that brought out your character in a good way. You know what I mean? Let's see. Some of us have just been like, oh my God, wow, what is this? Just tell me what I did so I can apologize. Let's see here. Says, I'm thinking there are the angels and demons who manipulate situations and people to do the threshing, like do the threshing for them. Is that what you mean? I guess that's kind of what happened to Job in a way in the Bible. Job essentially was threshed for no reason. Like he literally hadn't done anything. He did nothing wrong. And basically the devil just went to God and challenged him. It was just like, I bet you I can get him to crack. I bet I can prove to you that he's not wheat. I can prove it to you. And God said, go ahead. And, he said, I think he said, you can do everything, but you can't kill him. That's what he said, I think. And that's exactly what the devil did. He took everything from him, killed everyone in his family, destroyed his crops and his property and everything. And I don't think Job ever turned, ever. I'd have to reread the story to be accurate, and I don't want to misquote. But basically, in the end, God was like, see, told you, he's weak. Now, it's kind of messed up to like kill the man's wife and children and his crops and his cattle and everything just to prove that he's weak. That's kind of messed up. But God did give it all back. He didn't give back the same kids and the same wife, but he did restore Job's wealth and health to him. So there's that. But still, dang, man. Which is why I think that's kind of the whole point of even though it's a different religion, I think that's the whole point of monkness, or being like a monk, or someone who kind of purposely puts themselves through really, really unnecessarily difficult things. I think they're trying to do their own self thrashing, but I don't think that's how it works though. I don't think you just get to decide, okay, this is how I'll do my own thrashing. I'll sell all my worldly possessions. I'll live on a rock. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's how it works. I don't think we get to decide how we get thrashed. Oh, yeah. It says, I think evil exists because without it, we wouldn't appreciate God's love like the fallen angels didn't. Exactly. And it would be harder to thrash us. Like a lot of them are probably just God's tools, which seems unkind, right? Like it would seem like, why would a good and loving God use people, a person or a group of people to thrash one of his kids? Well, again, there was a major betrayal leading up to all of this. There was a massive betrayal in heaven. So to ensure that only the true ones get back in, there has to be some sort of process to that. And if your life was easy, super easy, then how do you really know who you are? It is a good parable, right? It says, I love the parable of the wheat and tare. It is a good parable. Oh, and there's an emoji. I might have to throw that emoji in my title. That's cute. It says, this is the key to everything that's happening, right? That is certainly what it feels like. It says, this is the key to everything that's happening. I agree. I agree with you. It says, I remember watching T.D. Jakes back in the early 2000s, and he preached on when it rains on the just and the unjust. And if we could pick our lessons, we'd all pick easy ones, or we'd pick all easy ones and never learn anything. Right. If we could pick our own lessons, man, we wouldn't learn a single thing. Yeah, it says the harshest lessons are the ones that shake you up and knock sense into you, right? Mm. Whew. It says the saints will be caught up at the opening if the scroll or opening of the scroll, and the 144,000 will be sealed to preach repentance throughout the trumpets until the remaining saints, the hard holes, are caught up too. Oh, interesting. So basically, right, because at some point, doesn't God have to plead with his people? There has to be a plea that goes out that's basically like, look, this is it. Like, this is coming straight from my mouth. Like, I have to read. I need to be more accurate on this. Oh wait, there was more. Caught up to be spared from the judgment. At the judgment, the evil ones will be swept away. Then the saints will return to the earth to reign 1,000 years, right? Swept away just like the chaff, right? Man, it sounds like there's the potential for some really what we would call supernatural events to occur in the very near future. Mm. Says my ass has been thoroughly kicked, right? If you feel like you've been kicked down to the floor, you just might be weak. Mm. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close on this thought, right? Excellent comments. You guys know that I absolutely cannot wait to see them anywhere between 10 to 14 hours from now. It's when I'll actually get to see your comments. Um, maybe one day, maybe once we surpass 1,000, they'll load my comments faster on this channel, but it's all good. At least they do show up eventually. But I want to close on this thought, you guys, that if it turns out you are wheat and you have been through a thrashing, like the thrashing of thrashings, right? I want to remind you that in the end of things, there we go. In the end, the wheat was not destroyed. So, in all that activity that we saw in the video that I showed you, the flailing, the beating, the over and over and over and over again, isn't it amazing that even in all that, the wheat was not destroyed? Now, I'm sure the wheat didn't enjoy that. It probably wasn't fun. It's probably not fun to get hit over and over and over again, dropped into a bucket, sifted, probably hit some more, dropped into another bucket, sifted, and then dropped into the final bucket while a strong wind blows on you. It's probably not fun. It's probably not fun for anybody involved. But in the end, ultimately, wheat is what is produced. And the wheat is not destroyed. If it were, otherwise they wouldn't do it. So this also made me think of the whole, he'll never put more on you than you can bear. So as bad as it gets, as hard as it gets, as tough as it gets, with every hit, understand that wheat is not destroyed with all that. The only way wheat is destroyed is if wheat is plucked up with the tares, basically. But other than that, the wheat can take it. Again, does the wheat find it fun? Probably not. But the wheat can take it. It's the tares that can't take it, the chaff that blow away in the wind and get burnt up with every major trial in life. So keep that in mind as you go through different things. Obviously, I wish you guys happy lives, stress free. But it appears like if we've come together, you're here on this channel, you probably met me on my other channel. You know, we've been through some things, in particular with narcissistic and wicked, evil people. And this could potentially be why. Again, never absolving ourselves of accountability, always examining and looking in the mirror and seeing what can we do better? What do we need to let go of? You know, how do we need to get right and righteous? Always doing that self-examination, but also understanding that it's possible the reason you've gone through all this stuff in life is because you're wheat. And wheat has to be beat in order to reach its final state of usability, I guess you could say. So I hope that's encouraging to you in some way. And I hope you guys enjoyed this stream. I had fun making it. It was very interesting to make. So I hope you all enjoyed it. So I'm going to close out by actually playing my little video one more time, and then I'll play our little theme song out, and that'll be it. Okay. But you guys take care. I'll be back again soon on one of these channels, either Permission to Exist or this one or the other. And that's pretty much it. Sign up for the mailing list to get notified, and we'll talk again very, very soon, okay? Bye.